Sawadee krap, welcome to the Thaiger and our daily Thailand News Today. I'm Jet Gunther. Coming up, the Thai PM is calling for a review of the Army's social media after Facebook blocked most of the local Army accounts. The government decides to maintain its ban on selected adult websites. One of them starts with porn and ends with hub. And ministers gather to discuss the vaccine passport issue. Coming right up in Thailand News Today. Thailand's public health minister is chairing a meeting next Monday where a vaccine passport scheme and potential travel bubble is on the agenda. Health Minister Anutin says those who've been vaccinated against COVID-19 will be issued with a book to confirm their vaccination. It's hoped that this will make international travel easier, as well as boosting the public's confidence and helping life return to some kind of normality. A number of groups and industry representatives are adding their voices to growing calls for a vaccine passport policy. Namely, the Joint Standing Committee on Commerce, Industry and Banking is urging the government to implement the scheme without further delay, while also calling for private companies in Thailand to be allowed to purchase and distribute the vaccines. The TAT is also pushing for some workable vaccine passport policy, while the Tourism Ministry has urged the Health Ministry to approve one. Meanwhile, PM Prayut Chan-o-cha has asked the Foreign Ministry to carry out a study on vaccine passports, adding that the jury is still out as to the long-term effectiveness of the current vaccines. They also have their critics, primarily among rights groups and doctors, who argue that there is not yet enough evidence that vaccination prevents transmission or how long they could protect the vaccinated. They're also going to discuss future travel bubbles. Thailand has been considering entering into reciprocal travel arrangements with countries with a high take-up of COVID-19 vaccines, with a focus on local Southeast Asian neighbors. In related news, from next month, foreign visitors to the kingdom will be able to experience the delights of area quarantine after the government confirmed the scheme for 5 provinces. Following a meeting with the Public Health Ministry, the Tourism Minister confirmed that Phuket, Krabi, Chiang Mai, Chon, Buri, and Surat, Thani, which includes Koh Samui, have been chosen to pilot the scheme. Foreign tourists opting for area quarantine will be required to remain in their hotel rooms for the first 3 days of their stay. They will then be tested for COVID-19 and, if negative after 3 days, will be allowed to leave their room and roam freely around the resort for the remainder of their mandatory 14-day quarantine. After that, they'll be tested again and, if negative, allowed to travel around the island or town. However, tourists will still need to fulfill the other requirements for travel, including obtaining a certificate of entry, a negative COVID-19 test 72 hours prior to travel, and adequate health insurance. The area quarantine plan will be run by 29 travel agencies under the TAT's supervision. There's more information about the new area quarantine at thethaiger.com. The world-famous site Pornhub and other adult websites remains blocked in Thailand, as they apparently conflict with the good morals of upstanding citizens. The Thai government says the website encourages poor moral standpoints and can affect youth in a negative manner. The acting Minister of Digital Economy and Society and currently Minister of Culture says that the decision that was made by the previous office holder will be upheld. The decision also includes keeping other popular adult websites blocked, as the Thai government has labeled them to be obscene. But the move to ban adult content has brought protests, with those disagreeing saying such sites are a part of freedom of expression. The minister also said that pornography violates children's and women's rights and has confirmed that pornography is indeed illegal in Thailand. He also says the websites allow users of any age to access them. However, the minister did not give any more details about how it violates human rights, but last year activists started a petition to shut down Pornhub, saying the website facilitates human trafficking. An anti-trafficking activist said the website makes it easy for sex traffickers to upload videos on the site. For their part, Pornhub has shot back, saying the claims are false and the company has a steadfast commitment to eradicating and fighting any and all illegal content on the internet, including non-consensual content and child sexual abuse material. Now, critics of the ban maintain the recent ban has less to do with obscenity and more to do with a video of a certain someone that ended up on Pornhub. A house owner in the central province of Ang Thong in central Thailand has discovered 3 skeletons on his land that are thought to be over 3,000 years old. 54-year-old Somkiat Bariboon says this most recent discovery is not the first, as the first lot of bones was found last year after preparing his 17-rai plot of land to be rented out for sugarcane farming. It was then that he found 9 skeletons, only later to find 6 more. The skeletons were found with bowls and other kitchen utensils found laying on top of them. He then transferred the skeletons to his home, wrapping them in blue sheets, describing some of the bones as smaller in size, resembling that of women or children. He says he also found ancient artifacts with the bones and arranged to have them shipped to Bangkok's Fine Art Department for research purposes. But he says he wants to eventually build his own museum of housing the display of bones and artifacts for educational purposes. He also passed on stories that ever since the skeletons and artifacts were moved into his home, strange things have been happening. The Thai Prime Minister says he's ordered an investigation into allegations that the military has been using fraudulent social media accounts to aggravate the ongoing unrest in southern Thailand. Facebook has announced the removal of 185 accounts and groups that it has accused of information influencing, targeting audiences in the deep south of the country, where Muslim insurgents continue to fight for independence. The PM says he's tasked the Defense Ministry with looking into the matter and explaining it to the public. Meanwhile, the Internal Security Operations Command, or ISOC, says they know nothing about Facebook removing any accounts. He says the accounts in question have nothing to do with ISOC, whose Facebook page is still up and running. Now, since Facebook's announcement, a number of people have petitioned the administrative court to issue an injunction against the military over the alleged information influencing practices. The Internet Law Reform Dialogue are calling on the court to issue an injunction against the Thai Army chief over the matter. The group says the military should be ordered to delete a database of people it has blacklisted and to apologize to the people of Thailand for indulging in information influencing. They say the Facebook probe reveals that Thailand's military has used information influencing to attack government critics, including opposition politicians, activists, academics, and journalists. And that's all for the top stories before the weekend. We'll be back as always on Monday for more headlines. Meanwhile, you're up to date on the Thaiger. Sawasdee krap.